honor to be here representing Brazil. I'd like to start thanking all the Brazilian guys here. I think you rock, you do a major difference in the global Kanban scenario. Really an honor to represent Brazil along with Michele. It was a great speech. And thank you to Dimitar as well. Kanban folks are great. We are great now, right? But this is not Oscar ceremony, so let's stop the awards speech and let's get started. I am Luan. For those who doesn't know me, I have been working with technology for almost 20 years now. At IBM as well, so it sounds like it's an IBM afternoon. And I've worked there for almost 10 years, passing through other consulting companies. That's what I have mostly done for my whole life. And we are going to zoom in the past 3 years. I've met two amazing companies, Boa Vista and Kanban, and that's the story we're going to tell today. So Boa Vista, for who doesn't know them, it's Equifax. Who knows Equifax here? All right, so very common here. And Associação Comercial de São Paulo, it's like a labor union, but for business. Is that something common for you guys? It's like a union for business. So this is the kind of things that you have only in Brazil, right? And we had that, and think about it, 50 years of data about small business, medium business in São Paulo, the largest business city in Brazil. Think about how powerful this data is. And combined with Equifax analytical power, it's strong, right? So we're talking about the finance industry. It's a credit bureau company. And what happened in late 2019 is that there was a flip the alpha moment there. They changed the CTO, and the CTO brought a few new guys with him. I was one of them, right? And we started looking at there, and so it was very bureaucratic, very siloed departments. Just to give you an idea, for a business person to talk to IT person, you will need to reach an executive assistant to schedule a meeting, to appoint a meeting in the calendar. It was extremely bureaucratic. Worse than government in some cases. So we observed obviously long queues and delivery cycles. And what we decided that was we're going to look for evolutionary process, right? So you just got some coffee, and this will be a coffee journey. So I guess you're energized after so many great speeches today, right? And this will be a coffee journey for all of you. We'll start this journey with 5 pilot teams. We worked with them in late 2019, around October, November, right? So near Christmas, and in 2 months we were able to observe a delivery 10 times faster. So how this happened? We saw that in average, the delivery cycle for a very small project, I just want a very small change in my product. It's not working properly for my customer, I want to change it. It took 40 days. Very small change. So what we did, we put the people together that was responsible for that product. Product, technology, marketing, whatever. Who was responsible in the company at that moment in time for that product. We put them together and we started doing the process of Kanban, which you're very familiar. So making policies explicit, visualizing the work, limit WIP, managing the flow, implementing feedback loops, and evolving, right? The special thing about this picture here is that you have the CTO there. It's key in the game. You have the guy there, along with some managers, helping the team to get things done, right? And there was a lot of coffee there as well. So this is how we started. We just put people together and think about what's the biggest problem you have on Monday, then realize what we're going to do, how you're going to do it, and deploy by Thursday. That's it. And we did it consistently. We across 5 different teams across the company, different people, different contexts. It worked consistently. right? So what happened next is that we start tracking these teams in a visual way. So we created this on the wall, on the physical wall at that point in time. The rows here are teams, okay? And the columns are steps the teams are pursuing. You have seen this in many different ways today and yesterday, right? A process. So the setting up of the team, the having a physical space, doing the static, implementing OKRs or whatever outcomes they're looking for, efficiency metrics, KMM. Yes, we are doing KMM at a team level at that moment in time. I know it's wrong, but it was one of the things that we noticed we should do differently. But at the point in time, we were measuring it at the team level. And happiness of the team as well, these are the faces there. I'm not proud of it, but you cannot win all battles, right? So I left that happen. And technology platform. We were migrating to the cloud. And this was very important for us. So this was how we were visually tracking the state of the teams at that point in time. And we continued to improve the ways of working. In early 2020, we used Amazon. Who's familiar to the 6-pager here? Concept? 6-pager? No? Okay, few people. So the 6-pager basically is a lean business case, right? So it's a 6-page where you describe the problem you're trying to resolve, how you're going to resolve it in the short term, in the long term, how it's attached to the business strategy, so on and so forth, right? So a very lean material, so people could ask you for $1 million, $2 million per year for a dedicated team to resolve that problem, okay? And we did that along with value streams. Because without the value streams, people would be asking money for different reasons without a big picture, right? So with that, along with the value streams, and what we achieved at that point in time was 12 active teams, more than 100 people working on this. We had MVPs in actual production. We were testing with real customers, new experiments. So we started to receive good feedback from the customer, from the product teams, from the marketing. It starts spreading the word, right? And then the value streams, this is the first coffee analogy I will do. This is how we thought about the value streams at Boa Vista at that point in time. You had your technology enablers, so think about the coffee machines. You had your product enablers, so it's raw grain of coffee. You have business enablers. Mug is a terrible analogy. I couldn't find anything better, but think about how you do the pricing, your legal stuff, etc. Then you have your actual products, which are consuming all these 3 different value streams. And then you have sales channels so you can deliver to the customer, right? Now, go back to the morning presentation of Martin's. And he was talking about the economic relationship between different teams, right? And that's exactly what we did there. We were having this conversation yesterday on lunch. So product enablers at Boa Vista context would be what? Data, right? They are buying data from many sources. They are converting data into intelligence that you can use for credit decisions. Should I give credit or not to this customer? And this data is bought by the product. So you have an internal economic relationship which you can measure. And that's very important because we found that the technology enablers were creating machines that no one was using. So a very nice throughput, very nice lead time, but a total waste. So we started creating those relationships, economic relationships, inside the house. And having this customer and supplier relationship. And something important about that was Google Cloud Platform. Because without it, we wouldn't be able to use the old IBM mainframe to measure these economic relationships, right? And this was very important. Now, moving forward, things started to scale up. This picture you can see as teams in the bottom. Now here, each team is a column, and they are climbing a mountain or hiking or whatever. And the teams here, they just got approved. The teams here are the pilot teams, which are in a more mature level, right? They have all the governance in place. They are doing good. They know what they're doing, why they are doing, what is their customer, more fit for purpose, so on and so forth, right? And in the bottom are teams who are still looking for the people to do the work that must be done, hiring people, etc. And the governance we put in place for that is in 3 levels, very usual. We have seen similar things in the past presentations. It's operation, coordination, and strategy level. And we split between doing right things and doing things right. So doing the right things is ensuring that people are delivering something that matters for the business, and doing things right, efficiency, basically, that's it, right? At the operation level, on the ground, is about how is the farm of the grains, what's going on, so every day thinking about the replenishment of the farm, thinking about the stand-up meetings, thinking about the planning of the delivery of the coffee, right? At the coordination level, you would have outcomes follow-up. So what kind of coffee is being sold? What is not? What should we do? What is delivering more value? How can we improve our business results? On the right, it would be a service delivery manager work, right? So a service delivery review, and just in the middle, a gamble walk. We had there the CEO, the CFO, the CTO, watching very closely the teams, especially the teams that were linked back to the IPO strategy that they launched on October 2020. And on the top, you can see a strategy review and the risks operations review. We did that every 3 months or so. It started monthly, then we gained sponsorship from the leadership to move to a quarterly review, right? So that's it. That was the story. That's how we scale up to around 250 people. And along this way, what happened was that in March 2020, pandemic, everyone at home, we need to improve visibility of what was happening. Kanban was extremely useful and fundamental to keep the work going, right? Happily, we started using it in January or so, 2020. And by March, most of the teams were already there. In mid-2020, we started applying more complex concepts of the KMM, not just doing the team-level measurement, which was useless. At the point we realized that we were looking for value streams, right? So for example, if the value stream on the product enabler is smaller than the product, you have a real issue. So you should have the enablers to be at least the same level or above the product teams, and so on and so forth. But we had here 25 teams operating, more than 200 people, no products, no cloud-native technologies being delivered for real customers. And you can see here, this is an official and public report of Boa Vista. It's available in the internet for investors. I apologize, it's in Portuguese, but I prefer to get the official report. You can see here people in teams. And you can see here it goes from 40 people to 250 people. This is weird, right? Who can ramp up that speed? So what happened here is that we had 80% of the people outsourced, and we bring everyone home. So whoever wants to stay, it stay with us, and the others we started replacing little by little. Oh, here you have some ramping up of teams and people, and then you have your productivity information in terms of delivery time. We were 12 times faster. Sorry. 12 times faster, and 48 more throughput. And this only happened, this sounds weird, right? 48 times more throughput. But what we adopted at a point in time was the Accelerate, another recurring reference here, right? Accelerate book, and we started just delivering code into production every day. Just test small chunks of problems being resolved consistently, frequently, often, right? That's it. So late 2020, we had IPO, very successful, Kanban trainings across the company, 3,200 training hours, great, right? We did an awesome job that year. So we left home for Christmas, and when we came back, what happened? What was the feeling? Everyone was happy, right? Nothing could go wrong. So January, in the end of January, we did an assessment like where we are, why we're feeling that something is not right. And what we observed, using KMM, using outcomes, observing the culture, observing the practices, we saw that the maturity decreased. The turnover started to increase. We had areas, departments where we had 40% of turnover that year. The demands start to increase, so we started having a lot of issues. We had also very good examples, and we rely on them for a while. We rely on legal department, operation teams. Like Scott and Chris were saying, it started gravitating. So everyone wanted to be on Kanban, to do the Kanban stuff, to help, to improve the ways of working, to get some support, right? But overall, it was not good. So I went with my family to the mountains. In Brazil, you have this beautiful city called Gonçalves in Minas Gerais. Amazing pão de queijo for those who knows what it is. And I was sit here with my kids, my 3 daughters, right here, in this coffee shop, and we were just drinking something after lunch. I was looking at the mountains. I was thinking, well, what's wrong, right? And I started thinking about a beautiful mochaccino that I saw inside the store, where there were different layers of it, you know? And I started thinking, hey, isn't this what's happening? Because when I talk to the finance people, they want to be finance-driven. When I talk to product people, they want to be product-driven. And the data people, guess what? They want to be data-driven, right? So you have different perspectives. Everyone should be listened, but it's hard for them to listen to others. And the problem is that we focus so much on the product teams and the technology teams that all the rest of the company was aside. They even created a branding for it. We call the transformation the Beyond program, and they were behind. So what we did, we started thinking in different ways. If we're talking about different layers, then we have the operational backbone layer. That's where you expect reliability, stability, resilience, transparency. It's like the grinder. The customer is not seeing the grinder. He doesn't care about the grinder. But if the grinder is dirty, then the customer will taste bad, right? So you want to have a clean grinder. The second layer is the digital platform. This is about velocity, predictability, products, platform, data teams. If you look at these coffee machines at your home or at the bakery, they share the same components. You have a place to put water, coffee, electric power, whatever. You're just recombining these components to create new product offerings for your customer, right? So this is about the digital platform. The third thing is about customer focus. It's about curiosity, hypothesis, insights, and discovery. So who knows the jacu bird? It's a bird in Brazil. Anyone knows it? Okay, the Brazil guys knows the jacu bird. Okay, not every Brazilian knows the jacu bird. The jacu bird is a bird that likes to eat coffee. And, well, how can I explain? The bird ingests the coffee and then digests the coffee, gives back to nature the coffee. Someone goes there, gets that coffee, if you can call it like that, cleans up, I believe they clean up. Well, it is. And they do it, this process, it's one of the most expensive coffees on earth. So it costs like 1,000 reais, it's like $200 per kilo. And this is, the price is not important. In my mind, what's most important is the curiosity of that person, right? How curious was that person? And how was the process? They discovered that other people would like to try it and pay so expensively for it. So this is the customer focus layer, right? And the last one is about empowerment and responsibility, dedicated teams, mission-oriented, collaboration, trust. I think I have talked about it, so I won't spend any more time here, but think about an example you want. You can make a team to be focused on the franchise of the coffee, or expanding the portfolio to groceries, or reducing the portfolio to make savings, right? So you can have different examples of empowerment and responsibility. I'm going to spend the remaining of my presentation on the other layers on customer focus, digital platforms, and operation backbone. And I want to show you guys how Kanban can help on the different layers of the company to make the company more balanced, right? So let's start with the operational backbone. The customer care, they were angry at us, especially the sales team, right? And the sales team is not a team that usually would like, I think, the team that would most like to use Kanban or even a physical Kanban board, right? But the problem there was latent. They were struggling, especially the product team, which was in the middle of the mess with sales, customer care, product technology, finance team. Everyone was relying on the product team to resolve all the problems. And the problem was, how do you deliver customer requests and keep the kitchen clean at the same time, right? That's the usual dilemma for any product team. How do you say no to the customer? How do you handle the maintenance issues on time? How to explain to business that you need to invest on infrastructure? And how long will we wait to pay our technical debt? Right? That's usual dilemma, but it's every day. And what we did globally across all teams, we started having global car types and Kanban so we could track these different work types, and we created beautiful reports so we can track what was going on. And we noticed one special value stream that was delivering too many technical debt and too many maintenance. And we give a quicker zoom in. We give a quick look, and we saw a terrible situation. They were delivering like 80% of technical debt plus maintenance, the black plus the red ones, right? So we started tracking the sources of dissatisfactions on customer care, IT operations, and product. They started complaining about everything, right? They started saying, oh, I don't have a clear view of my portfolio. I don't know how I need to reach to when I have a problem. I don't know what's going on. When I have a problem, I reach out someone on the phone, WhatsApp, I send emails, Teams, and whatever. So you had all the communication channels overflowed by the same issues on multiple places and multiple people looking at the same problems, right? So we improved it. We did one simple thing. There is no magic recipe. We just define explicit policies across these multiple teams. And just listen then, understanding the real problem, going really deep into the real problem they had, we were able to, in 2 months, we improved 12% SLA on time. It went from 85% to 97%. And most beneficial one, in my opinion, minus 56% of tickets opened. So all those tickets were closed and the customer had to reopen the ticket because the problem was not solved. And just by defining explicit policies across the different teams, we were able to make a big difference there. Let's talk about help chain. We started looking at executive blocker clusterings. This is about our digital platform. So we look at like 12,000 days of blockers across 3 quarters. We look at 1,346 blockers, average block time of 9 days on this analysis, 19 blocker clusters, and we analyzed 29 boards. In 3 quarters, we were able to reduce global organizational level blockers in 32%. And we did that just by clustering then and tackling one issue at a time. And we weren't able to resolve all the issues, obviously. Some even got worse, as you can see. So if you check internal prioritization, it went up. And that happened because the maturity level of some teams went down. And that's happened because the turnover was so high, right? So 40% of turnover, you basically need to start the team again. So you lose all the maturity that you had in place. But other things were better than this. So if you look at external prioritization, it improved. We talked to the C-level. Stop asking things for yesterday. Stop asking things as everything is urgent. We had an awareness conversation there. The customer, we make it explicit the policies with the customer for integrations. So we reduced a lot of block time there as well. Also, the security team is very nice because we increased the team capacity and implementation of Kanban method there. So we did both things, right? First, Kanban, and at the same time, we were able to show by number that we should increase the headcount of very senior security architects by 2. This costs a lot per year for the company. But based on data, we show that that was the blocker, not at the team level, not a local optimization, but at organization level. And last but not least, we were able to improve a lot the discipline on how to categorize the blockers. People noticed we were resolving the top issues, so they started showing their issues and being more explicit about it as well. And now design. This is about board synchronization. It's about customer focus, so I'm going to talk about problem and solution spaces. This is our upstream. Again, it's real example, so some things in Portuguese, but this is understanding of the problem. You gather some data, you analyze and synthesize the problem, and then you go to the solution stage where you're going to ideate how to resolve the problem, how to prototype, test, and validate that issue. And we had this at the initiative level for all teams. So anything that's initiative, attached to an OKR, you would have this process. And the problem here is that the design people were junior. We hired them recently. So they needed more follow-up from their leadership, right? And the leadership wanted to see everything that's going on related to the upstream and the design techniques that were being applied across all teams. I just want to have my perspective. I want to be listened. And what happened is that through a business rule using Kanban, we were able to replicate the same demand in two places. We didn't account twice as throughput. We didn't, obviously, we need to take care of the metrics there. But otherwise, it was great. They had the solution they wanted. They have the visibility of all design work that was being worked across the whole company. It was so successful that today, and this is an updated number, there are more than 300 boards communicating this way at Boa Vista currently. So everyone communicates to everyone this way. It's very easy. If you need the legal team, you just legal tag it, and it's done. It's there. And you can follow up from your board the work that's being done by Dan, and you can track metrics across the organization. You can track more specific metrics in terms of dependencies and SLA across different teams. So pretty good. And that's it. Basically, that's it. We were able to improve the maturity of the organization. I don't think we ever got close to a level 4, to be honest. But I don't feel lonely anymore. I thought I would be here. Everyone would say I'm level 4. Well, it's hard to be there, right? So we were able to stay between level 2 and level 3, and it depends time to time, but it was pretty good. Now, we did another movement. We put the transformation office at HR. So here there are two important things that I would mention. First, why HR? We call their people, right? People department. And we did that because the people who were helping this were inside home, but they were inside IT. And that was part of the problem, that other areas didn't feel appreciated. So moving that to HR turns the transformation a continuous movement of the company and a capability of the company, the whole company, not of one department. And you reduce the bias of IT department and the CTO making the calls, right? So that's something. The other thing that I would mention is the span of these people. We envision this not to be another department that's spending money of the company, but to be very scalable. So we started with one coach per 20 people. When I left the company, it was a ratio of one person per 50 people. And the goal was to get to 100 at least. So scale up, right? Make a capability of every manager, of every team member, and not relying on a coach to do the job for them. Well, so what? All nice, but in the end of the day, what matters are the business results. So happily, and I'm very, very happy to tell that, last year, Boa Vista had the best result in their history. They had like a 19% increase in net revenue, 25% more analytics solutions. Well, you can see the numbers here. It's a great result, the best in history. So that's what matters in the end of the day, right? And just to recap this story, this is one pilot team across more than 2 years. It started in the beginning of 2020, and this is late 2024. So 2 years of history of one team, just one team. One of those 5 teams that started the pilot back there, right? They started using Kanban at this point in time, so that's where the data starts to show here. And what you can see, obviously, is that they start to use Kanban level 0, level 1. They start to using Kanban, and then what happens here is that they are unpredictable, right? And we started applying KMM techniques, so they got to a level 2, or we thought they got to a level 2. And then another peak, another problem to resolve. At that point in time, it was the turnover. It was one of the teams that had turnover issues. So internal dependencies, right? This team has internal dependencies, and we started to see many outliers here. They got back on track. They survived it. They continued to work really hard. But then, again, they had problems, new problems. This time were blockers, external dependencies, right? And they got back on track, and they continued to live their lives, right? Story never ends. The point here is that every problem is smaller than the before because they are more resilient. They are more adaptable to the problems they will face. Because that's something you can tell for sure. You're always going to have no problems to resolve. The point is how the teams are going to adapt and evolve based on those challenges. So that's it, guys. I really appreciate your time today. Questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. I see the red and the blue dots.
Okay.
Explain what the difference was, because also the red ones were, spanning from 0 to E, and the blue ones less.
Uh-huh. So the red ones are work items that were blocked during their cycle time.
So not a different work at the time.
No, they were blocked. Well, if you use Kanban, can I start selling the tool, boss? If you use Kanban, you can create different visions, so you can make colors per work item or class of serves or teams or whatever you want. But this is blockers.
All right, thanks.
So this is just something that was blocked. No, just this. Red suffered some external dependency or something like that.
The blue ones, they went from delivery to production to done without any blocker on their life cycle, let's say like that.
Okay.
The red ones had any kind of blockers. Martin?
So first of all, the y-axis lead time, right? On this.
Correct.
So it feels like in each of these spikes, a new source of delay revealed itself.
Yeah.
And so would you predict that that would happen again? Because you may have some internal source of delays that just haven't showed up, but they're still part of your system. Is that sort of the continuous spike, but maybe the spikes are just lower and lower over time? Is that kind of the trend you're seeing here?
Exactly. So that's the point. If you see back in early 2020, the worst cases were between 60 and 80 days. That's a lot of time to get something in production, right? So, and this is not, there are many reasons. In this case, for example, it took them that long because they were migrating to the cloud. So having your product on the cloud helped them to deliver faster is one of the Accelerate book principles, right? But there are other reasons. When you see here, there was one case here, but this is like 98.99%. If you look at 85%, it's down here between 20 and 40 days. That's much, much better than 60 to 80 days, right? If a business executive wants to or needs to wait like a month, it's kind of okay. If they need to wait 2.5, 3 months, it's a problem, right?
Thanks.
What's the green line?
Oh, that's the trend, just to make it easier to see how the trend's going. Go easy on me, boss.
No, I have a comment and a question. The comment is I really loved how you phrased it, that the teams became more and more resilient and that helped them to recover. And this really speaks to a lot of what Kanban is about, building resilient organizations. So that was great. My question was about moving the transformation office to HR. I don't see that very often, and although we work together, we haven't talked about it. So I thought I should ask: was this a good move in hindsight, or not? What do you think?
Oh, it was perfect, especially because first the bias, the IT bias, right? So when there was a problem between product and IT, people inside IT were. It was harder to tell that the fault was on the business side. For example, if a team doesn't have a clear mission, a clear vision of the product, you cannot elaborate on what's the priority, right? So it was hard for IT people to tell the next product priority with the product team because the product people were lost. And that example. And we as IT, if we to go and tell the VP of business, hey guy, you don't know, your people don't know what they're doing, it sounds bad, right? If you're HR, you're neutral. You can say, this is not working because you need to have a clear product vision. I'm not pointing fingers, it's just a fact. It's one of the deliverables that's expected by your team. And that's it. So we were able to do more mature conversations with the finance team, with the legal team, with IT, with product, because we were at the people side. The second thing that helped a lot is related to culture. As the company came from Equifax and this Associação Comercial, this business union, very specific context, right? It's two different words. And when you merge these companies, and when you do an IPO, and when you do the flip the alpha, you start to have multiple concurring cultures happening inside the company. And HR was trying to fix that. So it was fundamental to be aligned with the culture, aligned with the top level board, executive level vision of what they wanted with the culture, especially because we were on the grounds, we were on what the work was happening, and we could tell how that was linked back to the strategy and the culture vision. David, please.
I just want to add to Dimitar's comment. It was a really good observation that the organization's getting more resilient. And I love the way the chart shows that, particularly to the right-hand side where all the red dot, basically the only things that have longer lead time are things that got blocked. And they're not blocked as much as they were a year earlier or a year and a half earlier. And what this story is telling us, the case study, it might be the first time we've seen validating evidence at some level of scale that the Kanban maturity model actually delivers on its promise. You improve the maturity of the organization, you get more resilient. And this is hard evidence that that was true for you. And I love that. So thank you very much for bringing this story and sharing it with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate and not just me, but there are dozens of people who worked really hard for now 3 years to get this done. So it's really solid work. Questions? Okay.
I have a very detailed question, actually,
Cool.
in regards to the blockers, because you showed earlier that you made this analysis of the whole company, and that you also standardized the blockers.
Yeah.
Now, like, my first thought was like, a great idea. I want to have a chart like that too. But on the other hand, we're like trying to let the teams define what their blockers are, and always recommend to make it as detailed as possible so that when you get your data, you know exactly what to tackle. So, for example, sometimes they put like external customer or awaiting external approval. You don't really know what's happening, like which customer or like what approval is it that you're waiting for, or especially for quality issues. So I'm wondering, how did you approach that topic? Like, how did you make the decision which blockers, like on what level of granularity to choose it? And are there additional ones that the team can add, or did you just have like one set of blockers that each board had?
Yeah, so we always aimed for autonomy for the teams to resolve their own problems, right? So this is kind of counterintuitive, because while you're resolving the problems, they should resolve by themselves. The problem is, look at this, for example, infrastructure, right? This is not a problem the team can resolve by themselves just because